I mean, how are you doing?
I'm okay after we had all our technical problems and I finally got my headset on so I can look like a 1920s aviator. I'm ready to go.
Great. As I said, I've got no problems with hair at this age and this side. But I mean, look, I wanted to talk to you because I'm looking for great uses of AI, great uses of large language models, and I think what you are producing is very interesting and different because I think what it is a business process or a product which has been created, which would not have been possible had it not been for the invention of the large language models. So perhaps you can just tell us about it and you know, how you thought actually you had the insight to think, well, this is a business need which can be served by a tool which uses large language models.
Well, I actually want to take us back to a more macro level, which is that there's actually two things that I think are momentous about what I'm doing. The first is that I'm building a software product. I'm not an engineer. I
Mm.
mean, I've worked with startups, with technology companies for many years. I've led two of them, but I have never, I mean, I've taken a few classes in JavaScript, but I am not a coder. So the fact that somebody like me can build a fully operational enterprise product is miraculous.
So
That
you're
could not
using vibe coding or whatever they call it
Exactly. I am
to.
vibe coding this on base 44, which means I don't need DevOps. I don't need AWS. I don't need an engineer. Now, at some point, I may, right? I may pull it off of that platform because it becomes too complex. But it is extraordinary to be able to build, test, and deploy this thing entirely using my own creativity. I
Mm.
mean, there's literally, I know some technical stuff so I can help the AI find some problems, but fundamentally, somebody else is coding this and that somebody else is an AI.
Yeah, that's incredibly
It
liberating
is
because I mean,
amazing.
you've had the insight, the business insight, saying here's a need. I mean, I can deliver it once you've got the large language models, but how can I actually create the tool
Right.
that in itself is being made possible by the existence of brilliant large language models. I presume you can choose your model with inside base.
I built this from scratch. So this is completely my idea and I have built every portion of it. It's just that I am giving instructions to an AI that is executing on my behalf. And so I can send you a login and you can log into the product and use it. You would have no experience that this is just not any other product you would log into, like the one we're recording this on, or Google Mail, or any of a million cloud based products that you use every day. So I think that is really, this is not the only app I'm building. I'm actually building another app as well, which is a gardening app that I've talked to a bunch of my friends about, and including our mutual friend, Chris. So I am really astounded by the degree to which vibe coding, and in particular these platforms that really do make it possible for lay people to create products, have freed people like me who have been like, I've had this repository of ideas for years. Like I've had so many startup ideas that were all technological that I could not execute on because I
Too
didn't have
expensive.
seed funding or an engineer in my pocket. So I just want to say that because what I'm building is, I think, a very interesting product, but that I can do it at all is really what's earth shattering.
But just can I ask you, the tool you use is base,
It's called Base 44.
and with inside base 44, you can choose the model that you decide to code with. Is that right? Or does it come with a
No,
standard
it's
model?
using in multiple models.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'm not choosing which LLM in the background. It's using usually ChatGPT, but you can also have it use Claude. It's got several. I think it's mostly using ChatGPT because we had a little glitch when they did that last new upgrade. But I'm not involved in that side, if you know what I mean. Although I'm helping the Base 44 AI design prompts for the ChatGPT AI. So within my product, there are many, many prompts
Hmm.
that the AI is writing on my behalf. But when things go wrong, it's usually because the AI didn't write a good enough prompt. And so I then have to get involved and say, wait, you need to instruct it to do this and to do that and to make these distinctions and so forth. Anyway, so that's in the background. And then in the foreground, what this product is now this is not a new need. It's just newly able to be addressed by something other than human beings doing something. So the thing that this product does is something I've been essentially working on my entire career as a strategy consultant, which is when an organization creates a strategy, the CEO or the board of directors or the senior team or whoever, they have a problem now. They have to get everybody in the organization working with that strategy as the context. And so there are a lot of very traditional, recognizable ways we do that. We will go on, do a roadshow and do town halls and send out emails and PowerPoints and train the managers to train their employees or whatever. But all of those processes have several problems. One is they are largely one directional information. So they are the CEO or the VP delivering information to workers who, and usually virtually, who have many different levels of education, expertise, functional knowledge, or lack thereof. And there's no real, there's no practical way to determine or even to help employees use that strategy to make decisions. You just kind of put it out there, teach it to them as best you can, and hope that they then internalize it and use it to make decisions. And mostly they don't, because mostly we make decisions in our day-to-day jobs based on expediency or metrics or who's hassling us the most or some kind of power, differential. We just need to do something because someone told us to, or someone's bugging us more or whatever. But you really want your employees to make decisions based on the strategy, based on the strategic principles, the strategic goals, because employees constantly face choices. Even
Mhm.
at the most basic level, if you think about somebody at a call center making a decision about how long to stay on a call with somebody and to solve their problem, or with what demeanor to do that, or
Mm.
what degree of care and attention, or whether they escalate it to a manager.
Or
Now,
offer a refund or
what? Right. And we've typically used metrics to do this. And metrics are a tool, but they're a very kind of clumsy tool, right? Because all they can do is incentivize one kind of outcome over another. They don't determine the behavior that generates that outcome. And so, everybody knows the story of the Wells Fargo Bank in the US, which used metrics to force their employees to generate greater and greater numbers of accounts. And employees were under so much pressure to do that that they, in fact, created fictional accounts. And they created
excellent.
like 10 accounts for their customers. The customers knew nothing about it. It was huge. It was fraud. Now, most metrics aren't that bad, but you can see it's pushing for an outcome, not for a behavior. And what you really want is your employees to have behaviors and make decisions that are advantageous to you fulfilling the strategy. And so when you do it this old fashioned manual way, you do all this one way delivery. And then the other thing that's problematic with that is that it's usually a finite thing, right? You deliver the messages, you do the road show, you do the town hall, and after a month or 6 months, it ends.
Yeah, you deliver
And
it once, you've delivered the strategy,
right.
you're happy, you've
And
ticked
then you
that
do it again
box.
in 5 years, or you do it annually, or some incremental thing like that. It's not an ongoing in your life experience. So what this tool does is it allows a leader, founder, or CEO, or whoever to provide all of its documents to the AI, and then it walks you through a dialogue to ingest your strategy. And the dialogue is extensive. It takes about 45 minutes to complete, but it takes all of your documents and uses those documents to populate its information. And then it asks you questions about what your strategic trade offs are, what your position is in the marketplace, everything about your strategy and your theory of how you're going to win in the market. And
Right,
it
so it's got a
even,
complete understanding of your strategy from the
exactly.
documents and from a conversation at the moment of ingestion.
Much more than a conversation. It is a very complex, structured dialogue, up to and including an entire section where it gives you difficult strategic dilemmas and asks what you choose and why. So, you have a vendor that is about to raise their prices a great deal. You have, X number of customers waiting for the product, but they've already agreed to this price. There's another prospective vendor, but it's going to delay delivery. what do you do? Do you stick with your vendor and eat the losses? Do you raise the prices on the customers? Do you switch vendors and delay the delivery? Like those are real choices, right? That's how life really is. And then you give the answer and the explanation, and the AI adds those kinds of principles, those those
Examples.
way that
Yes, great.
you calibrate priorities into the strategic schema. And so it builds an entire schema. Then you can deploy that to your employees, and your employees now get taught the strategy in an engaging, interactive way that is specific to their job. And then the AI also asks them similar kinds of dilemma questions like
But so you're teaching via conversation.
it's not it is conversational, but it's more like when you're when you had to do well, I don't really have a good example. It's a combination of a form and questions and answers. It's more like it's not just chatting. It's not open-ended chatting. I know we think of LLMs like that, but this is not that. This is much more structured than that. Because remember, this is uploading the strategy and teaching the strategy. Now, once an employee has gone through the process of learning the strategy, and being able to make decisions that are aligned with it. Then there's a secondary feature that allows the employee to use that tool to make decisions on the fly on an ongoing basis. So they can go to the tool
So
and
you
say,
query the tool about a real
then you
world
can.
problem. Okay.
Only after you've done all that other setup stuff so that you have the background, it has the background, and the CEO has gotten the strategy right. So what it does is it acts the role of this sort of strategy ombudsman for decision making in the moment.
But so let's just wind back a bit. We are using LLMs and AI to create the tool. That's an amazing conversation in and of itself. We'll park that. Within your tool, we're using LLMs to ingest the strategy, completely ingest all the documents, and through some kind of interaction, ingest the whole of the strategy. Then we can use that in some interactive way. And you're saying it's sort of guided learning, but with some interaction, which
Mhm.
was not previously available before
No,
because we couldn't interact in such an unstructured way. But you're
but
actually,
because it's not algorithmic, because it's
yes,
intelligent.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not that the AI has an algorithm for what the right answers are. The AI is creating the educational model. I mean, I'm creating the model, but the AI is populating the educational model with not just the actual words from the strategy, but with the inferences it's drawn based on its understanding of the principles. So it
So
invents dilemmas for the
yeah, yeah,
employee.
yeah. So far more sophisticated
Yeah.
method of teaching or learning than was previously available. And then finally, so the three things that you have is actually you're
But there's
using
another
it
one
very
too.
cleverly to be able to go and ask it a question, say a real world question. Well,
Yeah.
this is my dilemma. Can you help me? You've got all the knowledge. Can you help me? And that seems to me very much like the way that some people are using sort of AI to, create the first draft of an email or create the first draft of a document. You can ask it, and it might give you the answer, but it's the first draft of the answer. You say, "Oh yeah, I need to think about this," and that's so useful to be able to have something that you just ask and give you the first draft. Oh
Well,
right, yeah, yeah.
but in this doesn't do quite that. What this does acts more like a Socratic interlocutor. So it will say, you say, I've got this problem. I need to get this project done, but now we have these 5 bugs that came in from big customers. Do I have my team stop working on the next iteration of the roadmap, or do we handle these bugs? I'm under a lot of pressure. My boss is out of town. How do I make this decision? And the AI will say, okay, let's look through the specific strategic principles at play here. We have the customer needs this, we have the deadline for the release, and it will walk you through that because there aren't right answers in these
Mm,
situations,
mm,
right?
mm,
There are
mm,
only better and worse answers.
mm,
And sometimes
mm.
you have two not so great answers and you just have to call it. And so the AI can help an employee call it in a way that's consistent with the strategy rather than inconsistent with it. And then it has a third tier, which I think is the most useful, which is as your employees are using this tool, the AI is amassing a body of knowledge about what its employee problems are. What are the employees reckoning with in the world that is germane to the strategy? So, are they constantly getting complaints from customers about some aspect of the product that is not broken but that doesn't fit their needs and that needs to be added to the product roadmap? Or are they constantly having problems with deployment because this part of the product is too difficult to use? And employees are coming back to the AI with these dilemmas, and the AI can then create reports for the leadership saying, here are problems that may be indicative of inconsistencies or suboptimalization in your strategy. Maybe you want to look at this or that.
So
And
that
so,
data or that information which was previously unrecorded, or maybe it was recorded, but because it's recorded in unstructured ways, was difficult to interrogate or build into the rest of the management. You can record that and extract meaning and then deliver it back up to the management in
right.
a wonderful feedback loop.
Well, and the thing is, how that usually lives in an organization is that it's not that it's not recorded, it's that it lives as a complaint. So what
Right.
happens is everybody on the sales team is all nattering and gossiping together and complaining about something that is fundamentally a strategic problem. But because it gets heard like complaining, it doesn't get distilled into a genuine piece of feedback that ought to inform an iteration of the strategy. What this tool is, it takes all those problems and turns them into useful feedback, which
Mm.
also I hope, now I don't know if this is true, this is entirely a hypothesis. I hope that if that virtuous cycle really kicks into gear, it makes the environment of the organization less toxic because persistent problems that are strategic get dealt with as such rather than
There's a
becoming
pressure valve.
complaints.
You can
Right.
let the pressure off. You can say something and it is being listened to. But I think what's very interesting is you're absolutely right. I'm sure that a lot of these complaints are recorded, but then there's a big document and there's a whole load of stuff which has been recorded, and it's quite difficult to ingest and master that and make it actionable. But actually, a tool like yours can understand it and feed it back in a virtuous cycle in a way that somebody can do something about it.
Right. So the CEO has a dashboard, and when he goes to his strategy dashboard, it says 3 issues you should consider. And it gives the issues and it says, like, this is kind of how this is showing up. You know, first of all, how do I help employees with this? And second of all, maybe the strategy needs some tweaking on this. Like maybe we change the roadmap. Maybe the product needs this. Maybe we shouldn't be going into that secondary market right now. We're getting so
Mm.
much pushback. This is information that's really valuable, and it usually comes way later on the fat tail of unintended consequences instead of in a sort of programmatic way when you need it and can do something to fix it.
Yeah, and I suppose that sort of comes back round to your first insight, which was, companies do strategy and they do it in a year and they deliver it. They forget about it and they come back in a couple of years' time and they look at our strategy, maybe it needs updating, but they haven't done anything. So in the
Well, it's
meantime,
not
but
that they
this,
haven't done anything, but it's kind of like it's like you throw the strategy out there and then 5 years later you come back and look at the results and go, "Did that work? Did that not work?" But in the middle, like in the
yeah,
middle, you're just assuming this strategy was like fully executed. And
yes,
of course, like the projects might have been executed, but with how much noise along the way did that
yes.
happen?
Well, it's a bit like just sending your boat off into the sea and expecting that, the direction you push it in will be the direction that it ends up sailing in, no matter what waves come to knock it, or what waves and storm come to knock it off course. So yeah, obviously tweaking your strategy, all because stuff happens, is what you should be doing. But what people, I
Well,
suppose,
and I
don't.
think, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like we're doing nothing right now. Like, obviously, leaders tweak their strategy when environment changes or when they get really staggeringly bad feedback, like they can't sell something or whatever. I mean, metrics do inform strategy. And I don't think that this doesn't replace metrics, but it
Mm.
also doesn't deploy or use metrics. This is really about the qualitative alignment of an organization with the strategy rather than the quantitative alignment. And the quantitative alignment matters. And I don't want to sound like I'm suggesting it doesn't. It does matter, but it is a different thing than having people who have internalized the strategy and have it as their context for decision making because they have a tool consistently to do that. So I mean, I think you can get away with just the metrics, but the possibility of a holistic strategy alignment is so much richer if you also have this qualitative alignment piece.
Well, I think it's a brilliant use of a large language model because, as you say, this, a service such as this would not have been possible 4 years ago. Just would not have been possible. But obviously, you're close to the market. You understand what the needs of the market are. And thought, actually, this could be delivered
But
with
we'll see
sensible
if I'm right about that. I mean,
sensible
I think
use
it's
of a
needed.
large language model. Well, I
I
think
mean,
it's a
that's all up for grabs whether anybody really wants to buy it. But I am looking for beta testers. So if anybody who's listening to this has a company or has a strategy and thinks this tool might be of interest to them, I would love to have some more beta testers who would be willing to upload their strategy docs and use the tool and give me feedback so that I can improve it.
I think what you've done is fantastic, inspirational, because I just love the fact that, as you said, you're not a coder.
No,
And
no, not at all.
you knew there was this need, and you knew that you thought, well, actually, large language models can help address this need. But actually, just the vibe coding step of throwing yourself in and thinking, I think I can do it, having the courage to do it, I think it's brilliant. I love it.
Well, I appreciate that, Hugh. I'm very grateful for that. And I hope you're right that it turns out to be useful and having been a
Well,
good use of my time.
in some respects, it reminds me a bit of the sort of liberating things about technology, which I think in my lifetime are liberating. And one of the liberating things about technology, I think, is the rise of YouTube and other platforms for learning. That was an unintended consequence. Nobody said to me 20 years ago, "Oh, YouTube's going to be great for learning," but actually you can learn anything. And then I love Coursera as a platform where you can go
Hmm.
and really learn stuff, and actually just takes you and your energy and endeavor to go and access that and do some learning, which I think is very liberating. I think in some parallel way, this vibe coding is also very liberating. You've got an idea for a product or a service, you can go and create it.
I mean, I really do feel like I have been given a second life in a certain kind of way
Mm, mm.
because I have been a kind of frustrated product person my whole life. And or frustrated, not any kind of product, like I'm not an inventor of devices, but I have always had all these ideas for how to deliver something with using digital technology. And I've always been frustrated in being just thwarted in any attempt to get anywhere with it. And so this has been just it's just extraordinary to be able to sort of disgorge my brain into this tool and have it create something that actually it is my idea manifest. It's amazing.
That I think is great. I wasn't looking for that, but I was looking for great uses of AI and LLMs, but to describe it as a gift of a second life, it's
The
a
second
great
professional
thing.
kind of, I mean, a second professional life. I don't mean a second life.
But I think that's the order of magnitude of what you're saying. It's so
Yeah.
liberating. It's given you a second life, and that's brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Amy. That's been great, and and I wish you much luck with your second life.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.